Okay, guys. So it's going to be a Q&A session for the past two classes. Okay, so let's go over for first 5 to 10 minutes. I think one more person has to join. Probably somebody has to be joined. I think there are 6 people, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So okay, let's go over some of the basic concepts. Okay, I think Sarath Kumar is also joined. He also wanted to attend the demo class of the class today. So hi Sarath. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Q&A session for 5-10 minutes initially. So first of all, we are going to see what is cloud. Okay, so what is cloud computing? Okay, what is cloud computing? Okay, anybody want to answer what is cloud computing first of all? Okay, basically, if you want to explain what is cloud computing, is it right? So the cloud computing is the concept. Let's see. This is the first question. The cloud computing is nothing but okay. So the accessing the resources. It can be of storage resource or network resource or any resources. Through online. Okay, so the accessibility of resources through online, right? And with a pay per use model. Okay, so online and pay per use model, per use uh, pay per use model. Okay, so this is what called cloud computing. What is cloud computing now? So let's take some examples about what is cloud computing. Which means that we are using Google Drive. Okay, the best example is Google Drive. Okay, so the Google Drive is something which is used to be accessible through which will be able to accessible through the online, right? So let's say consider this the Google Drive. The Google Drive will be able to access through. Okay, so the Google Drive is something which will be able to we are going to have a Q&A session. So some of you guys so who's recently joined. So cloud computing is nothing but we are going to access the online resources. Okay, so resources online access on the resources and pay per use model. So for example, what we can call as a Google Drive. Okay, so next one is that so what is cloud computing? Cloud computing is nothing but cloud is nothing but the collection of hardware, which means the collection of data centers. Okay, for example, what we can think about is as a cloud computing is that so we have a let's consider this kind of entire world. So here we have different countries. In the different countries, what we have is then so we have a different. Okay, so we have different data centers across the world. Okay, so if you wanted to go back and check it, so the data centers, the AWS data centers. Okay, so map. If you can give AWS data centers map, probably you'll be seeing the entire map of the AWS data centers. Okay, so we can see this. These many data centers are AWS is established across the world. Okay, so what are we going to do is that then what is the cloud computing is all about? Accessing these resources, accessing these data centers over the internet. So accessing these data centers over the internet. Okay, let's say for example, so if we are accessing these things through internet. Okay, so let's say for example this is the internet. Okay, so we are accessing these resources through internet. That is called as a it's also called as a cloud. So that's called as a cloud. Cloud means we don't know where the data centers are available. Okay, but we're accessing through the internet. Okay, that is called data. That's called the cloud. Okay, so the cloud computing is nothing but the process in which we are accessing these resources online. That is called as a cloud computing. Yes, right. That's what called cloud computing. Okay. Next let's go about what is region. So anybody can explain what is region? So anybody can explain what is region?
So basically, region is a specific area. For example, we can say like where there is a collection of data centers.
Exactly. So what is region? What is region in AWS? Okay, so what is region in AWS? So if we can go for region, okay, so is the region, okay, let's consider about, US West 1. So is the collection of data centers, the data center 1 and data center 2 and data center 3. So all the combination of data center put together in the single place is called as a region. Okay, so if you can see this, AWS region, what is AWS region? Okay, AWS India AWS region. Okay, in India, what happens is that the AWS has been established. Okay, so AWS has two regions in India. Okay, Asia Pacific and Mumbai region, and then Asia Pacific Hyderabad region. Okay, the Hyderabad region is not been published yet. Okay, so if you can see here, go to EC2 instances. Okay, let's consider, so how many regions are there? So if you want to see all the regions, whatever it is there, so we have in Asia Pacific, we have only one Mumbai region. All the other regions are apart from India. So in India, what they have, the AWS, what they have is that they have, for example, in Mumbai, we have only one data center, one region. Mumbai is a one region, and inside one region, how many data centers are there? For example, okay, so we have. Can somebody tell me that what is how many data centers are there in India? Anybody? So in Mumbai region, we have a 3 data centers. Yes, right. Hello? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes, we have a 3 data centers, right? We have discussed about it. So what is the individual data center? What is individual data center?
Availability zones.
It's called
Availability zone.
Availability zones, right?
Zones.
Availability zones. So this is called availability zones. This is called as a individual data centers. Okay. So what happens is that, okay. Okay, so what is availability zones? So individual data center is data center called data centers. What is individual data centers called in region? Is called as availability zone. So let's say for example, this is a single region. Okay, so in this region we have a three different data centers inside. Okay, so how are we accessing this? How are we accessing these data centers? Okay, let's say for example, all the regions and everything is there. How are we accessing through internet? How are we accessing it? Using the web console. Okay, that web console is called as a
AWS.
okay that web console is called as a AWS, right? So what is AWS now? So AWS is this is the AWS. Okay, so in the background we have lot of data centers which is called as the regions, and then we have a lot of availability zones. Inside that we are going to access those resources through internet, and that is called AWS, right? So this is what we are accessing. Got it, right? So that is the answer for this one. So next, fourth question is, okay, what is the ways to access the so what are the ways to access AWS console? Okay, for now we can access in two ways. Okay, one is through, okay, maybe there what is the ways or what are the accounts, what are the ways or accounts to access the AWS console. So what are the ways to access the AWS console?
Root user account.
Yes, exactly. So one is root user account, one is root user. Well, first one is root user, another one is IAM user. Okay, so first one is root user. So first of all, you should know how to access the account, right? So one is root user, and another one is IAM user. Okay, so how to access the IAM user here? Okay, let's go to the IAM over. Let's click on IAM over here. Okay, so how to you must be knowing what is IAM and how to access the IAM, right? So you're going to see the IAM dashboard over here. Okay, so we're going to see that how to access the IAM. Okay, so here is the IAM dashboard. Here we can create a users and groups. Okay, so we are going to create. So yesterday we have created two users. One is user 1 and user 2. Okay, the cloud institution user 1 and cloud institution user 2. Also we have created, right? So using this method, we'll be able to create it. So now another question is, so IAM user or root user. Okay, so who has highest authority? So who has highest authority?
Root user.
Okay, root user. Yeah, root user is the highest authority. Okay, so the root user is the highest authority. And then another question we can ask is, who can create IAM user? Who can create IAM user?
Root user.
Okay, root user again the root user only can create IAM user. Okay, so the next question. Okay, fine. So next question is, IAM user has all the access, you know, initially when they create account. Yes or no?
Based on the permission that we assign to them.
So the question here is, you should understand what the question. So IAM user has all the access initially when the user is created. So when the IAM account, when the IAM user is created, user account created. Yes or no?
No.
No, right? So the IAM user is IAM user is the normal user. Okay, so when we are creating a normal user, when we are creating IAM user, it doesn't have any access, right? So we have to go and specifically grant an access to the IAM user. Yes, right? So the next question is going to be, so 8th question, because if you don't understand these basic concepts, so you won't be understanding anything. Okay, so the next question is going to be, okay, so what is IAM permission in AWS called? So what is IAM permission in AWS called? So what is, I mean, if you want to grant an permission, so what you have to grant? Authorization. So what is the permission called? So we have seen, we have assigned something, right? So what is that name called? So example,
Policy.
yeah, yes, exactly, policies, right? So if you want to assign something, we have to go to, okay, permission and policies, right? So what is policies now? So policies.
Authorizations.
Yeah, so policies, what is policies now? Okay, so now next question is, what is policy? So policy is nothing but the authorization. Okay, so now the policy is nothing but the set of permissions. Policy is nothing but the set of permission that can be given to the users or groups. Yes, right. So policy is nothing but the set of permission that can be given to the users or groups. Okay, this is what called IAM. So IAM dashboard. So first of all, you should know what is data centers and what is AWS console, how to log in it, and then from the login, after the login, you should be knowing what is root account. So who is root account? So the root account will be called as the account whatever you are creating over here. So that is called as a root account, right? So IAM user account is called as the user that is going to be creating, that is called as a IAM user account. Yes, right. That is what the IAM user is also called. Okay, now let's go back and check what is. Okay, so the next question is going to be, okay, so what is an instance? It's called. And okay, before going to that, let's brush up on what is virtualization. What is virtualization? What is virtualization? It's called. So the virtualization. Yeah, please go ahead.
Virtualization is creating virtual servers on the physical machine by installing a hypervisor.
Exactly. So you nailed it, right? So what is virtualization now? So we have all the data centers and everything. Okay. So the virtualization is nothing but, so creation of. So let's say, for example, this is the virtual machine. So the creation of virtual machines, okay, over the bare metal server. Okay, so creation of virtual machines. Virtual machine is nothing but the creation of machines, or it can be Linux or Windows or Mac OS, whatever it is. You're creating the one VM. VM is called as a virtual machine or any kind of a servers. Okay, so you're installing and creating a OS on top of the bare metal servers by installing what? Installing the hypervisor. Okay, hypervisor is called as a virtualization, right? So basically in the virtualization is also called as a virtualization is nothing but sharing the hardware resources, across multiple virtual machines is called. We can also say that, right? So as we have discussed that, we have a big data center or big server. We have installed hypervisor or hypervisor on top of this one, so that all the resources can be shared across multiple VMs. Yes, right. So all the resources will be able to share those resources across multiple virtual machines. Okay, that's also called as a virtual machine. So virtualization, right? Any questions till now? Anybody have any questions?
Nothing from my end.
Good. Okay, so now let's see about what is types of hypervisor. Okay, types of hypervisor. What is the types of hypervisor? What are the two types of hypervisor? Anybody?
Type 1 and type 2.
Yes, we have a type 1 and type 2. Type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor. Okay, so what is type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor? Okay, so what is type 1 hypervisor? Okay, type 1 hypervisor. What is type 1 hypervisor? Anybody want to say what is type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor?
Bare metal and hosted.
Sorry?
Bare metal and hosted.
Okay, so first of all, what is type 1 hypervisor? Bare metal. Okay, so installing the hypervisor on the bare metal is called as a type 1 hypervisor. Okay, so type 1 hypervisor is nothing but the installation of hypervisor on a bare metal OS, bare metal server is called as a type 1 hypervisor. Okay, so what is type 2 hypervisor is called? What is type 2 hypervisor is called?
Hosted.
So, okay, so the host OS based, right? This means that we have a hypervisor, we have a service over here, so we have a hypervisor over here. So, okay, let's write it again here. So this is your server. Okay, so you're installing host OS, on top of that you're installing, okay, hypervisor. Okay, and then you're creating the virtual machines from the host OS itself. Okay, you're installing host OS from the virtual machine like this. Okay, that is called as a type 2 hypervisor. Type 2 hypervisor is nothing but you install host OS. I mean, this is a bare metal server and installing OS instead of hypervisor, and on top of that again you are installing hypervisor, then you're accessing it. Okay, so that is called as a type 2 hypervisor. Okay, now next, the 14th question is, what is the 14th question? It's going to be, what is virtual machine service called in AWS? So what is virtual machine service is called in AWS?
EC2.
EC2, right? Very good. So virtual machine service called as a EC2. Okay, EC2. What is EC2 is called? Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, Elastic Compute Cloud. So many people say that Elastic Cloud Compute, but it's called as Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, so far we have seen two services. So first of all, now we can say again, like, what is cloud? What is AWS Cloud? Okay, so the cloud, AWS Cloud. Okay, let's say for example, if you can consider what is the AWS Cloud. So AWS Cloud is nothing but the collection of, okay, for example, it's a collection of services. We can call as a AWS is nothing but the collection of services that can be accessible over the internet. Okay, for example, what I'm going to say is that, so what is the collection of services? So far we have seen two services, right? Yesterday we have created one virtual machine. Okay, so how to create a virtual machine? go to EC2 instances, launch instances, and then we'll be creating a virtual machine, right? And today I'm going to show you another simple example. Okay, so let's not go into the deeper into the sessions again. So this is one of the services. Okay, so creating virtual machine, how to create a virtual machine. So let's forget about what are the different steps to create a virtual machine for now. Okay, but what are we going to do is that we can create the virtual machine by launching instances. Okay, so for example, I've just click on launch instances. Okay, now I can give some name. Okay, so name is going to be Linux VM. Okay, Linux VM, and then I'm scrolling all the way down. Okay, so let's discuss about all these things later. So first think about what is basics. First few days let's learn about what is basics, right? So I'm going to do proceed without key pair, but still it is loading. Okay, this is the instance services. What is instance services? Okay, so we have two services we have seen. The first services what we have seen is IAM. Okay, what is IAM is used for? IAM is the Identity and Access Management Service. Okay, so what is that used for? That's for that we use IAM services for security purpose. Yes, right. So we use this IAM for security purpose. So why it is called as a security purpose? Because you're creating users and groups and authorized persons, authorized access to the people, so that only authorized people will be able to access these services. Okay, this is what called IAM security services. Okay, so the second service what we have seen is what? So we're creating a Linux machine. Okay, so we are creating just a Linux machine. Okay, so let's go over that all the Linux machine, how to create and everything later. So this is called as a virtual machine service. Okay, so we have a two service. Okay, or VM service. Okay, so first service is called as the IAM security based service. Okay, that's one service, and second service is called as the virtual machine service. Yes or no? So we have seen one is IAM security service, another one is virtual machine service. Okay, these two are the services which we have seen till now. Okay, now if you can go back and see here, now one of the virtual machine is getting created. Right, so one of the virtual machine is getting created. It may take some time. So whenever you're creating a virtual machine, so you have to be creating like this. Okay, now the second virtual machine services got created. Okay, now let's go back and see another simple virtual machine of simple services. Okay, so what is cloud? So what is cloud? Some of the people, if you can ask what is cloud means, so they say that cloud is nothing but the storage. Okay, so where do you store some okay, so 1 second, I think I made some this thing. Okay, resources. Okay, now what is storage? Okay, so here the virtual machine is created. This is called as a virtual machine service. Okay, so how do we going to connect it? So here we can see the hypervisor. So hypervisor got created some virtual machines, right? This is called a VM service. Okay, and then so we can see here the virtual machine is got created. So this is the virtual machine service, and you know that how to create the virtual machine now. So let's go over that virtual machine, so step by step creation, all these things maybe later. Okay, so if you click on this one, okay, I'm going to click on this particular icon, and then if you click on connect it, so it's still loading, so it may take some time. Okay, if you click on this one, yeah, just let's give it some time. So next one, okay, so meanwhile it is get loading, right? So meanwhile let's discuss about another service. Okay, so another service is called as a storage service. Okay, so what is storage service in AWS? Okay, so we have one more service in AWS is called as a storage service. What is a storage service? It's called as it's just access a. Okay, I'm going to write it over here. Okay, the next question for the interview is going to be, so virtual machine service called is the EC2, right? So next one, what is the storage service in AWS called? Okay, so in AWS we call it as okay, let me connect it real quick. Okay, so let's close this again. So in AWS, okay, so we call it storage service is called as a S3 buckets. So what is S3? So we call it as the buckets. It's nothing but the kind of a folders, right? So what is S3? S3 is called as a simple storage service. Okay, it's just like a it is just acts like a it just acts like a what? It acts like a Google Drive. Okay, so here we have a IAM security service and VM service and storage service. Okay, we are going to see how to create a simple storage, and we are going through all the services. So we have seen yesterday, day for yesterday we have seen all the IAM services, in the deeper way, and we have seen all the different so all the different options, users and groups and everything, and we have seen little bit of the virtual machine creation. Okay, we are going through some of the virtual machine creation later. So this is a virtual machine, right? Okay, we are going to see in the next classes, we are going to see very deeper into this kind of a virtual machine creation steps. Okay, and one more thing is that now we have another option. Now we have another services called storage services. Okay, so how to create some storage just like a so Google Drive. Okay, we call it as a Google Drive. So for example, what is Google Drive will do? So the Google Drive is a service which will be able to access the files and folders through online, right? So you should be able to grant an access to the different people. Okay, that's what called Google Drive services, which means the storage services. Yes or no? Now as you can go here, so let's go back to here. So there is something called, as I mentioned with you, we call it as a S3. Okay, S3 bucket. So this is called as a bucket, right? We call it, it's opens like a bucket. Okay, now click on S3. Okay, let's consider this is a simple service. Okay, so then we are going to see that what is cloud in AWS all about. Okay, if you click on S3, okay, still loading. Okay, it shows us a general purpose bucket. So what is bucket is called as a, okay, let's see what is the next question is going to be, what is bucket? Okay, so what is storage account? Okay, so what is storage account is called? The storage service is called as a S3 buckets. And what is bucket? Okay, we're going to see these two concepts. Okay, so the bucket, it's still loading. Okay, I'm going to close some of the tabs just to make it load faster. Okay, I'm also going to close this one as well. Okay, so what is S3 bucket? S3 bucket is called as a individual storage for so individual storage for specific purpose. Okay, so individual storage for is there spelling mistake? INDIVIDUAL. I don't know if I'm okay. So individual. Okay. Is it right? I don't know. Okay, yeah. So individual storage for specific purpose. Okay, so what is this thing? So S3 is called as the service. Okay, it's a storage service. Inside the storage service, we can create a the bucket, right? So what is bucket? See, for example, if you're 5 people are there, 5 people are working in your team. So if 5 people, 5 different candidates wanted to create their own storage service where they can store their the files and folders for them. That is called as a individual bucket is called as. Okay, so let's say for example Google Drive, the S3 bucket is called as a entire Google Drive. So in the Google Drive we are creating the individual account for each and individual people. Okay, that's called as a S3 bucket. Okay, so create a bucket. For example, I'm going to create a bucket for some specific purpose. Okay, so let's see all these options. So whenever creating bucket, let's see all the different options. For now I'm going to create one more bucket. Is called cloud institution. Okay, test bucket. Okay, So let's see all these things later. Okay, so all this kind of so the public access, this is the public access. If you want to make it as a public or private, you can make it. Okay, so this is a very very simple service, right? So this is a simple service. I'm going to create a bucket now. Okay, so creating bucket is nothing but creating one account for specific purpose. One storage account. Okay, so that will be able to store some data. Okay, let's say for example we have created this bucket. Okay, so if I want to write it down, okay, so if you want to write it down here, okay, now we have a total of, okay, sorry, so we have total of, okay, so we have total of bigger storage account. So now I'm creating one small okay, small storage account for different teams or different users or different purpose. Okay, so this one is called as a bucket 1. For example, we can call this a bucket 1 and bucket 2, bucket 3, bucket 4, right? So we can create a different bucket. So now I've created one bucket. What this is one bucket is called? So this is the S3 is a storage account services, and then this one is called as a simple bucket. Okay, so what is simple bucket is called? We can go inside the bucket. It's called as I mentioned with you, we can create it for the different purposes. Okay, so here, let's say for example, it's for cloud institution bucket, test bucket, right? So I'm going to store all the, all the files and folders that is relevant for my company, which is a cloud institution. Okay, and okay, let's upload some files here. Okay, so it is just exactly like a Google Drive. Okay, if you know what is Google Drive, so Google Drive is used to store some files and folders, right? Okay, so now it's going to be loading it, and then I'm going to add files. I'm going to add files or folders, right? And we can just choose files or folders. So whenever it's asking, so just a Google Drive, what it will do? Okay, so now I'm just adding some kind of a cloud institution logo is what I'm going to add it. Okay, I'm click on open it. Now I added one. Okay, so I'm added one file. Okay, similarly you can also add some folders if you want. Okay, so let's not add the folder now. I'm going to upload the files. Okay, so as you can see here, so how does it look like? So in the real time, does it look like a Google Drive? Yes or no? Guys, is it looks like a Google Drive, right? So what we do in a Google Drive? In the Google Drive, we go and upload some files just for the storage purpose. This particular storage will be used for longer time. Okay, so this is what called as a bucket. So this is called as another service. Okay, so let's go back here to the, okay, so directory buckets. So I have one bucket that is created for the test purpose. Okay, so what we can do? Okay, so if you go for general purpose buckets, okay, we have created one bucket for my purpose. So again, what we can do? We can create another bucket for some different purpose. Okay, for example, so for our team. Okay, so this is for my purpose and for my company purpose I've created. Okay, so this is for cloud team. Okay, cloud team bucket. So I'm creating this cloud team bucket. So the same is going to be I'm blocked all the public access, which means that this bucket is going to be private. I'm creating bucket now. Okay, so if you click on bucket, so create bucket. Okay, the bucket names already exist, so it's going to be, okay, so the 1 2 3 I'm going to give, because this bucket name has to be unique across all the world. Okay, so which means that just like a Google email, right? So are you able to create a same email ID which somebody's already created? It's not possible, right? So say in the same way, S3 bucket is also the similar way. Okay, so if you wanted to create some S3 buckets, so that has to be unique across the global. So now we created two storage account, which means the storage service. One is for a cloud institution bucket for my company. Another one is for my team. Okay, so my team, what you can do, you can go and upload again some files. You can upload files or folders or whatever it is. Okay, so let's upload some folders. Maybe so folders may contain lot of files, but I'll upload some other files now. Okay, so screenshot, I'm uploading some kind of a screenshot over here. Okay, so now I can upload it, right? Now I can upload it. So this is what called as storage services. Now tell me, what is cloud computing here? Okay, now uploaded, right? So now we have created two storage accounts, now storage, and we have access it through online. Okay, now tell me what is cloud. Okay, so now in the AWS cloud, now we can call it as a cloud. AWS is nothing but the collection of services, collection of services, which is IAM service, it's a security service, then the virtual machine service, and the storage service. Okay, similarly we have so many other services which we have not seen. Okay, so all these services will be able to access through online. Okay, so all the services will be able to access through online. Okay, so online is called as AWS. Okay, that's what called AWS cloud. Okay, now we understand what is cloud services, right? So now why people are going to the cloud. So what is the reason why? So 17 question for this particular session is going to be why people are use cloud. Okay, so you might be wondering, why people are using cloud. So anybody wanted to answer for this one? So why people are using cloud? So why they wanted to go into the cloud? Anybody?
To work efficiently, I'm supposed to
Yeah,
discuss.
so the first one is efficiency. Okay, so efficiency. Okay, efficiency, probably. Efficiency. Next one is that,
Accessibility.
sorry?
Accessibility.
Okay, accessibility. You can access it through online. And then accessibility.
Pay only for resources that you use.
Exactly. So pay only for resources. Only for resources you use, right? So for example, if you can go for a okay, so resource. Sorry. Uh, okay, pay only for the resources you use. For example, we have a storage account here, right? We have a storage account. So now if you go for a Google Drive, so Google Drive, so tomorrow, okay, Google Drive is telling that, hey, I'll give you 15 GB of a Google Drive is for free. I mean, like Google Drive is for free, but tomorrow they're going to stop it. Okay, today is going to be free. Tomorrow, okay, you have to pay some 1,000 rupees to use the 15 GB of Google Drive. Okay, so in this case, we don't have any other option. Okay, even though if you store the files or if you don't store the files, we have to pay for some 1,000 rupees, right? Okay, that is upfront cost. But what is cloud? So in the cloud, we are using only for that particular. For example, I've uploaded one screenshot. So I'm just paying only for this particular storage. You know how much? 137 for 2 KB only for that particular GB. I'm using for the, so I'm using that amount, and then so I'm paying only for that particular amount only. Yes, right. That's what called pay per. Pay only for the resources used. Okay, that's also another advantage of cloud computing. And next one is that, so there is another advantage. So is there anybody want to tell that what is another really important advantage?
Security.
Exactly. So security, right? Security. Okay, so we can just access only for the people who were having a access, and then we can restrict for everybody. Okay, that is another very very important type concept where we use. For example, I created some 10. I created some. So for example, we have a. Let's consider about Google Drive. Okay, if you share this link across Google Drive, the Google Drive, everybody knows about what is Google Drive. Okay, anybody can try to access, or anybody can try to access with some kind of a permutation combination of your password. Then they'll be able to try to access. But now talk about that S3 buckets. Okay, so storage services S3 bucket. So if somebody wanted to hack this one, what they have to do is that, okay, so they have to first log into the AWS account through IAM. Then you should know that what storage account you have created. Okay, so what storage account you created, and then they should know the storage account name, and then they will try to access it. Okay, so there are long way they have to come inside to the cloud to access your data. Okay, that is very important. Of the security is a very very important concept on cloud. Okay, so what is next? Another very very important, the important concepts is there in cloud. So what is that one? Okay, I'll tell you what is the another important, very very important, the thing everybody wanted to move it. Okay, so the quicker provisioning of resources. So what is So what is quicker provisioning of resources? Okay, or we can say that for fast provisioning of resources. Okay, for example, why it is happening like this? I see. Okay, so the fast provision of resources. For example, so okay, so now let's take about one real time example. Okay, so I wanted to use the Google Drive. Okay, with a 15 GB of size. Okay, I don't have any other AWS account, Google account. Is it possible for me to create it? Okay, without having Google email ID, it is not possible to access the Google Drive, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, right. Now what I have to do? I have to create one email ID, and then I have to so that email ID has to be correct, and I need to give my phone number and verification. All these things I have to give. Then I have to access the Google Drive. Yes or no? The Google Drive also having some certain limitations, right? So if I exceed the 15 GB of Google Drive, okay, on my account, what will happen? I have to go and purchase it again. Okay, I have to give my credit card, debit card, and all these things. Then I have to get the access, right? The same way, if you go for a S3 bucket in the storage, okay, sorry, if you go for a S3 bucket in the storage, right? Okay, so if you want to create a storage account, or if you want to create some kind of if you want to create some of the, if you want to create some kind of a storage, so you can create the storage within a fraction of seconds. Yes, right. You don't need to give any kind of a debit card, credit card, so all the information. So whenever you wanted to create some virtual machines, or whenever you wanted to use some kind of a storage purpose for your account or your projects, you will be able to create it instantly. Okay, how much time it took for me to create this storage account? Probably probably fraction of seconds, right? So within a less than a 10 seconds or something like that, I went and created this particular storage for my purpose. Okay, and similarly the virtual machines also, right? We have launched a virtual machine, this virtual machine, right? So these virtual machines, we have created this virtual machine within a fraction of minutes. So now what happens is that so whenever the startup company, okay, let's say for example, so startup, just consider about startup company. Okay, if any startup company wanted to create their applications, okay, or they wanted to develop the application, they wanted to go live immediately, the cloud computing is the best option for them to choose. Why? They can create instances they create a virtual machines instantly, and then they can create a storage account. They can have they put all the security concepts in place, and then they can host the application within a fraction of seconds, right? So what happens if you don't have a cloud? Just imagine I don't have a cloud. So as a startup, so I'm starting my company, okay? So let's consider, for example, my company name is Cloud Institution. Okay, this is my company name, right? We have already seen it. So if I'm a startup, I want to start my own business. Okay, so if I want to host this website somewhere, how much time it will take for me to set up the infrastructure, or I buy the hardware, which means that buy the storages and servers, and I have to connect all together and all put together in a single place, and then I have to connect it, right? So how much time it will take for me to set up all these things, and how much investment it has to be done, right? So it's be huge, right? So I have to invest more. I have to invest more, and I have to wait for a long time, and it's kind of a maintainability is very difficult, right? For example, I have one storage, I have one physical server. So how much time I have to spend for my time to maintain that one? So because I have to check whether the power connectivity is there, I have to check whether the internet connectivity is there. All these things I have to check, right? So that's why people are preferring any startup companies or any kind of companies. If they wanted to start their business online immediately, they are going for a cloud. Okay, they have to create account, they have to go inside, they deploy the application, and then they're done. Yes, right. That's what is called as a cloud computing. Okay, so in the past couple of days, we have seen some kind of basic services, which is what is services and all these things, right? So today we have seen another service, which is called as a storage account, right? So storage services, which is called the bucket services, simple storage service. So S3 bucket is called as a simple storage services. Okay, so we are going to see all this kind of what is storage services, and how to create the storage services, and all these things. We are going to be having a separate session in the later classes. Okay, the first few 1 week of classes, I will make you understand. Okay, what is cloud and why we use cloud? What is the purpose? Why people are using cloud? Okay, these are all the things we are going to use the cloud computing. So now tell me. Okay, now ask me any of your questions what you have. so that we can go over the questions one by one. Okay, so I'm going to go over the question. I'm going to take questions one by one, probably. Okay, so I'm going to start with on my list, Pragati. You have any questions? You can ask me any questions to you know make everybody so the question whatever you're going to ask is going to be useful for you as well as for others, right? So the questions may enlighten others doubt also. Okay, so just you can ask me any questions what you have now. Pragati.
Uh, yeah, so, yeah, as of now, no questions, sir. I understood everything. Just can you explain what is the basic difference between cloud and on-premises?
Okay, yeah, so it's a very good question. Okay, so now the question is, what is the difference between cloud and on-premises? Okay, so the cloud and so the basic difference between cloud and on-premises is that, let's say the example, this is the on-premises. Okay, so this is on-premises. Okay, what we have written here. Okay,
We cannot see a screen.
sorry.
Unable to see a
You are
screen.
not
Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Is it okay? I'm going to share my screen. Once again. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now I'm going to write, I'm going to write then what is the difference between on-premises and cloud. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to okay. Now I'm what so let's say for example what is on-premises, this is on-premises and this is cloud. Okay, let's consider this one. Okay, so in on-premises also we have data centers. I mean on-premises also we have servers and racks and all these things is being put in place. Okay, so in data centers also, in cloud also we have servers, so we have data centers, all these things is there. Okay, this is on premises and this is cloud. So what is the difference between on premises and cloud? Which means that so the cloud will be able to access through internet. Okay, so you'll be able to access through the internet. Okay, if this is the internet, you'll be able to access through the internet, right? This internet. But what about on premises? On premises, if you want to access it, you have to go through some protocols. Okay, this is a data center. If you want to access this data center from the internet, okay, you have to go through some kind of a you have to go through some. Okay, so let me just okay, so you have to go through some firewalls. Okay, and then that firewalls has to be enabling for you to access to this particular infrastructure. Okay, then these resources will not be able to access from the public for everybody. So which means that so what is cloud? So cloud is nothing but anybody can go and access it. Anybody. So if anybody who wanted to create some kind of account, they wanted to, for example, today I'm thinking that hey, I wanted to create some virtual machine. I want some storage services for me, maybe for my personal purpose. So anybody can go to the cloud. Okay, cloud is nothing but that is available over the internet. But what is on premises? On premises is not available over the internet. Okay, so it is be belong to the specific authority or specific company, right? Organizations,
Okay.
right? So if you want to access it, you have to grant a permission. Then you should be able to access it. For example, military purpose, right? So anybody will be able to access the military data
No.
or the government data. No, right? That is stored in a secure place. If you want to grant an access, you have to go through some channels and protocols. Then only you'll be able to access it. But in terms of cloud, what is cloud? Cloud is nothing but if anybody give me your email ID password. Okay, for example, if somebody is giving you your email ID and password of your account, they'll be able to access it, right? Yes or no?
Mm.
Yes, that's what called cloud. Okay, so even though if you have access to the military operations, if you have a email ID and password for the military operations, there are a lot of restrictions. You have to go through firewalls. You have to go and you have to know that what are the services are there. Then only you'll be able to access the services. Yes or right? Yes, no. So
Yes.
that is what called cloud. Okay, it's a very good question. It's whatever you asked. So next question. Okay, if you have any other question, Pragati, it's a good question again.
No, sir. That's all.
Okay, so that is good. So next let's go with the somebody next person. Okay, and Ajay, you have any other questions? Ajay, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah, sorry, sir. Hi. So, my questions related to the IAM account that we created yesterday. Can I ask?
Yeah, yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So, after our class yesterday, I spent some time to research more about those topics,
Very good.
and
Yeah.
I have created the MFA for root user and IAM users and all.
Yeah.
And my question would be, so if as a root user, will I be able to impose that MFA restriction on my IAM user side? Because whenever I created an account, right, it is possible only with this particular machine that I'm using. So my question would be, as a root user, can I impose that MFA request whenever the IAM user log into their machine next time? Just like they change their password, can I request them to enable MFA on their machines?
Yeah, so that's basically you cannot enforce them to do it. So it is so for the account itself, right? So for the account itself, what you can do is you can go and create a common MFA for your account. For example, if you go for a so it's again a really good question. Even I never thought of this particular question in my this thing. So if any users can go and create MFA, so this MFA for root user has not been enabled. Okay, you can go and create so the individual user, so we cannot enforce them to, basically the answer is we cannot enforce them to go and do it. But
Okay.
if the user will be able to log in to their account, this is my root account I've logged in, right? So
Yes.
similarly, the user will be able to log in with the user account, then they'll be able to create it. So the root user, what the root user, so we can set the policies. We can set the policies. So that's why we call this a inline policies we have set. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
you can write the policies. You can write the policy. Some of the things like, so any users should be able to grant, you will be able to access the MFA. Probably, for example, uh, so this is the inline policies, right? You can create your own policy
Okay.
that will enforce some of the the conditions that everybody should be able to access the account using the MFA. So you can also
Mm-hmm.
research on SSO. What is SSO?
Single sign.
Yes, single sign-on, right? So we can also enforce that. So you can go to identity center. Okay, leave page. You can also go identity center. You can enforce SSO for the particular account. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, we can configure. So as IAM, so it's a really good, so enable IAM identity center, right? So what we can do, you can configure your identity providers. So you can configure SSO and all these things for the IAM account so that everybody should be able to go through the multi-factor authentication. Okay, so if you can consider about like the real time, right? This is the real time question what you're asking. So SSO configuration for AWS, if you can give like this.
Sir, sorry, not able to speak the
Oh,
screen.
sorry. Okay, I think I've stopped my sharing again. Okay, can you just let me know if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, so this is what SSO authentication. What is SSO? Single sign on. Okay, so without password or in the centralized way or without password or for some different ways, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can enforce. So see this one. So IAM SSO, the user will log in. It is come to the users and groups. Okay, it has to go through the SSO process. Okay, then it has to identity center. It has to authorize it. Then it should be going to the credentials. Okay, so we can set up all these things using. So we can just, so the question answer for your question is going to be, the root user can enforce everybody to be enabling SSO or MFA authentication for their account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is something which we'll be seeing in the future classes. Okay,
Okay. So at the
so
moment, I created MFA for my root account and one of the IAM account, user account that I have created. Uh,
good. Yeah, yeah, it's fine. So it's very nice actually. So for example, if you're using a account, right? So this is the account. Okay, so what you can do is you can go to IAM.
mm-hmm.
Okay, you have to configure MFA to create a added security for you. So I just thought of this MFA is one of the syllabus. Okay, so you have
Okay.
to so we'll be going through this MFA in the future classes. Once you understand the entire syllabus. Okay, for example, MFA for root user.
Mm-hmm.
So you can click on this one. You can just configure the MFA. So you can
Yeah,
just add the
yeah.
devices and everything. We can do it. Okay, so we can
Yes,
see this in the next classes.
sure,
Right?
sure.
Yeah, fine. So good question. Good. So anybody else, guys? Ajay, you have any other question, Ajay? No.
Yes, sir. So just now we talked about this identity center, right?
Yeah.
So like as soon as we log into the AWS console, there will be two options for us. One is uh, this identity center, and the other one is create IAM users.
Yeah.
I see this identity center is being recommended by this AWS,
Yeah.
but I tried this also, but I'm not sure what is the purpose of this.
Yes, yes, we can see that later. So basically, first few days, right, first few weeks, if I go very advanced on the identity center, you'll be able to understand. Okay, so for the purpose of others, they have. I want you to understand what is cloud and how to access it. Once you get used to it, we are going very advanced with the concepts, right? What is security levels and what is firewalls, is what is identity center, where you are centralized manage, your access and everything. We'll be going through. Okay, so this is the third class, right? So definitely I'll go through all the different topics in the future.
Okay, my last question would be, once we create this IAM users,
Yeah.
At the last step, we'll be given all these details of the user account that we created,
Yeah.
username, the console URL, and
Yeah.
the password that we generated.
Yes.
But once we click on done or create,
Yeah.
that disappears, and whatever the user list that we created will be displayed in the users. But I'm not sure how to check for the console URL after that.
Console URL.
Yeah.
So you don't need to check
Yeah, even I have the same question.
Okay, so you have the same question. Okay, so yeah, so you don't need to. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, so let's go back here and are you seeing my screen?
Yes, I could.
Okay, let me close some of the tabs. Okay, because my laptop is getting slower probably. Okay, I'll just close this one as well. So now, see, you don't need to go for the IAM. You don't need to go for the that URL all the times. So for example, what you have to do is that, so I have a users. Okay, if you want to log into the IAM user, okay, so what you have to do? Okay, for example, I am to log into I'm going to private console. I have a user one. It's my user, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a IAM login. Okay, sorry, AWS login, right? If I type AWS login, okay, AWS console login. Okay, so for example, if I click on this one, so it's going to be asking for a login page. Okay, yesterday I already discussed with you. Okay, so you mean to say that you're not getting the URL to just give this one, right? So you don't need URL basically. So what you have to do is that you go here. Yesterday I told you. Okay, what is the account of this, your AWS account ID is going to be this one. Okay, you copy this one. Okay, and then you paste this one. Okay, paste this one. The IAM user is going to be user one, and then the password is going to be. So this is a password. If I'm not wrong, I've just given this password. Okay, I'm not sure if the password is correct or wrong. If the password is wrong, maybe. So let me just choose some different user. Okay, so cloud institution one. Let me just try if the password is, but because I feel that I forgot the password. Okay.
Yes, I'm aware of this, but for easy execution, say for example, I created and I wanted to share it with someone. I thought of giving them the.
See, you don't. Okay, okay. Let me create the user again. Okay, so for example, right, let's create from a user. Okay, so the user one is going to be a test user. Okay, so private access to the console, and I want to create IAM user, and then custom password. I'm giving a password. Okay, so password is going to be this one. Okay, so user must create a new password, right? So now I'm click on next. Okay, so now if you can attach, okay, I don't need any policy attachment, and I'm creating user. Okay, now create user. Okay, so this account is nothing but your account ID with the sign in login. Okay, so what I mean to say is that you don't need this URL again. So what you can do is, if you wanted to share your credentials to somebody else, it is enough to share your account ID here, account ID of this one. Okay, and then the username and the password. If you can share this one, that is enough. So the reason why I'm again telling, okay, I'm going to restart it again from the starting, right? So go to Google. So AWS login. Okay, so AWS login. Okay, AWS dot cloud computing web services. I'm going to login. Okay, so if you click on this one, probably it's taking me for the new console. Okay, so it's the login console is going to be taking it, right? Okay, so sign in. If you click on sign in, this for the same page, it's going to be landing it over here like this, right? So you don't need what I'm going to say is you don't if you have this. Okay, so it takes me to this one. Okay, what I have to do? I have to copy this account ID.
Mm-hmm.
I have to copy this account ID, paste it, and what is username? Username is this one.
Yes.
Yeah. So then the password is what was the password? This one. So basically, what I'm telling you is that so it's getting login, right? So it's old password, new password changing. Okay, so I don't need this URL again. Okay, this URL
Yeah.
is something. This URL is something for the identifier itself. You don't need this URL again for your account. Yes,
Yeah.
this is a good question. Yeah, yeah,
So my doubt was like, can you go back to the same page again?
yeah.
So when you click on this return to user list, this screen will go away. And I was asking you that is there any way that you can see when you click on test users, this console sign URL will pop up? No,
See,
right?
this URL. See, that's what I'm telling. This URL will be a common URL.
Okay.
So, Ajay, like what I experienced yesterday, that when you click on return to user list, that yellow color option, it will give you a pop-up like, say, you haven't viewed or downloaded the user's password yet.
See,
So
it
it will
won't.
ask
Yeah.
you first.
See, it
That
won't store the password. Okay, for example, test user. If you can go. Okay, you don't need the URL basically. Okay, you don't need the URL at all. Okay,
no,
so
so basically before clicking on return to the user list, we can either send an email to the user so that they have those details with them,
yes. Also,
and
otherwise we can also
that
download
still
the.
will not come again.
Yes, you can also download the that CSV file for the future
Yeah,
use.
Yes.
So
that's why it is giving us the warning that
yes.
you haven't downloaded yet. Just download it first before returning back.
So otherwise, what you can do also, you can just share this URL. ARN, you can share it. In that ARN, no. So you have the account ID, and then the user is going to be test user. So the password we can share it later. So password they should be knowing. Okay, you can also do that one.
Okay, sir. So we'll be learning this AR in later classes?
Yes, yes, yes. ARN and all we are going to be later. So in the
Okay.
ARN is very, very important concept. All the concepts will be coming later in the classes.
Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so next go back to somebody else. Anybody? Pragati is Mansi. You have any question?
So, will you please explain instances again?
Which one we want me to explain?
Instances.
Instances. Okay,
Yeah.
so instances I'm going to cover tomorrow. Okay, so instances will be I'm going to explain from A to Z. So we are going to have complete session tomorrow on instances. Okay, so instances is
Okay.
nothing but the virtual machine concept. Okay, so don't think that instances topic is covered today. Instances, I just create some sample instances. So tomorrow you're going to have some detailed explanation on instances and kind of a Terraform. All these things I'll be able to explain it in the tomorrow classes. Okay. So any other question? Okay, Ram Shankar.
Just on the first question, so you explained about the cloud and businesses, and there is a third option called as hybrid, right?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it once again?
Like you explained the first question Pragati asked, I think. So it's about the cloud versus on-cloud.
Yeah.
And there is also a third one called as a hybrid, right?
Okay. Okay. So this is a very, very good question again. What is hybrid cloud? Okay. So okay, can I close this one? I think I hope you guys know it, right? Okay. So what is hybrid? Okay. So hybrid is something like for example, let's think about so it's a AWS. Okay. So it's kind of a cloud. It's a public cloud. Okay. This is kind of a banking sectors or it's a private cloud or anything. Okay. So we have a third option is called as a hybrid. So what is hybrid? Hybrid is nothing but okay. So hybrid is nothing but for example, this is AWS. Okay, so this is AWS and this is kind of a data centers. Okay, so this is kind of a on-prem data centers. On-prem. Okay, on-prem is your company will be using your own data centers. Okay, right. So what is hybrid is called? Okay, so in the companies off of the infrastructure. Okay, so for example, I have one application. My application off of the application is been installed in cloud, which is AWS, and off of my application is installed in on-prem. So that is what called hybrid cloud. So hybrid cloud is nothing but some of my application is running on cloud, some of my application running on prem. So the best example for this particular this thing will be of banking sectors. Okay, so what is, well, let's have an example. It's the banking sectors, right? Okay, if you go for a banking sectors, this is a bank. Okay, this is my SBI bank or anything. Okay, this is bank. So what happens is that in the banking sector, okay, so if you can see all the products and so SBI, for example, if you go for SBI, all the products, and if you go for a if you purchase loan or EMI calculator, for example, EMI calculator. Okay, so for example, I have one website called EMI calculator. So this EMI calculator is just a website. Okay, so all these websites are non-critical websites, which means that there is no sensitive data here. Okay, for example, if you can go for a Google and if you can search for a Access Bank, a bank EMI calculator. Okay, so this is the website. Okay, so if you see the accessbank.com EMI calculator is kind of one of the portal. Okay, so retail, all these things. Okay, so this is kind of one of the portal. So here there is no sensitive data, right? So all this application or can be hosted in all the application can be hosted in the AWS. Okay, because there is no sensitive data will be uploaded over here. Okay, next here what is on-prem? So on-prem, the many people will be hosting on the sensitive data. What sensitive? Sensitive data, which means that your debit card and credit card information. Okay, so will you be able to get all the all debit card and credit card information over here? No, right? So if you want to change your mobile number or if you want to change some kind of OTP, password or anything, you have to go to the bank. Okay, you have to go to the bank, and the bank people will be able to access this particular data center. Okay, nobody will be able to access this particular sensitive data on-prem data centers. Okay, this is what called this is what called as a hybrid data centers, which means that some portion of your application is being hosted in AWS and some portion of the application hosted in on-prem. Right, this is what called hybrid cloud. So understand this one, you understand this one?
Okay, sir. So they basically use both type of hypervisors, right?
So basically what?
So they basically use those two types of hypervisors, like the first one and the second one as well.
Two types of?
They hypervisors. So
Yeah.
they use the AWS service and as well they have their own service, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. They are like using the two types of hypervisors in the same sector.
No. See, hypervisor is different. See, on-premise is not the. It may be a cloud. It may not be a cloud. Okay, so they call it as a cloud because it's a private cloud. Okay, so for the private cloud we call it as a VMware. Okay, so we can go for what is VMware. Okay, what is VMware company? It's called, what is the VMware company? VMware is the, what is IBM cloud, right? IBM is kind of a, the private cloud. So VMware is a technology company, it's a specialization in virtualization and cloud infrastructure. Okay, they offer is the kind of a private cloud. Okay, so they may use some kind of a different hypervisor for this particular purpose. And here also they are using some kind of hypervisor. We cannot assume that so every company will be using type 1 or type 2 hypervisor. That is depends upon their own own decision. Okay, so you'll get all these things small things later in the classes. Okay, so yeah, any other questions now, guys? And Manoj?
Sir, so not a question, but I'm so sorry, Manoj. If you want to go ahead, you can.
No, you continue. Yes.
Yeah, just I wanted to ask the following question. What who asked? Ram asked the question. So basically, almost all the companies are using the hybrid cloud only, right?
No. We cannot say that. We cannot say that. See, some of the companies don't have the data center itself. So some of the companies, some of the startups, they don't have infrastructure itself. Okay, so this is kind of a so this kind of a specific purpose. So if you really wanted to use your own data center and you don't want to spend all the money for the cloud, right? So you have sensitive data that has to be stored in your local And for example, my company, right? So if you talk about my company, my company is kind of a cloud institution. Is my company, right? I already opened it, so I don't have any sensitive data information. So I never use on premises. Okay, all this information are uploaded in cloud.
Okay. So
Okay,
basically, on-premises, the environments or the organizations using on-premises, they have their own data centers.
so own data centers or the private data center as well. So what is private data center? Is kind of a, as I mentioned with you, the VMware. So VMware is the company. So
Okay.
they can purchase two things. Okay, they can also go to the, for example, so for example, this is my company. Okay, I can also go to AWS. One of the some I also purchased the AWS infrastructure, and I also purchased the VMware data center also. Okay, I'll be using both. Okay, even though I don't have my own on-premise data center, but I just utilizing some kind of private sectors, which is called the VMware sectors.
Okay.
Okay, so before the emerging of cloud, okay, so many people were using that on-premise. I mean, the VMware only. So many people were using VMware. That is called as a private private data center, private cloud. We call it as a private cloud. Okay, so because they don't have infrastructure, but they used their infrastructure on the some other companies. All right, so that's what called as a on premises or the hybrid. I mean, this is what called as hybrid. You can use AWS or some other different private clouds. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, Manoj, you have any other question now?
Yeah, yes. So in IIM,
Yeah.
so after creating a user, that pop-up will come, right? You said we can also download that.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's say we have forgot to note down or make a note of that password.
Exactly. It's a
So,
good question. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
so is there any way to see that password again, like to give the user the access,
No, it's not
access
possible.
to the?
It's not possible actually. So it's a good question.
Okay.
That's the reason why it is kind of a, it's kind of a really a good thing to understand. What is the security in cloud? So okay,
Okay.
once the password has been, for example, you create a user. Okay, if you create a user, so whenever user is going down, that's why what you have to do is that you have to save the CSV file.
Okay.
So always you remember you have to download the CSV file for your safer purpose.
So
Okay,
that contains all the credentials
all the
and all.
credentials will be there in the CSV file. Okay, you can also encrypt
Okay.
this one. So if you go
Okay.
back because so for example, so root user should not be able to see your password anytime.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's a nice question again. So
Yeah.
you should be understanding what is CSV file and all these things, right? So next question, anybody? Any other question, Manoj? No.
No, that's all.
Okay, Sai Sri. So you just joined recently today. If you have any other questions? Sai Sri, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, good. Sarat Kumar, yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, no, sir.
Okay, guys. So yeah, no question. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. To today's session. So I think I feel like it's going to be a really interesting session. I want you guys to understand the basics first. Okay, because the going forward, all the topics, whatever you're going to discuss about, is going to be a little advanced ones. Okay, so the EC2 instance and S3 bucket, all these things is going to be a little bit of advanced. So if you understand what is cloud and why we use cloud, then you should be understanding like what is the purpose of the what the purpose was, what the services what we're using. Okay, so yeah, tomorrow I think tomorrow's holiday. We see again on Friday, and we'll talk about more on the different topics. Okay, so
Tomorrow there will be no class, sir.
I think tomorrow is holiday, public holiday, so our companies are closed, and I'll just inform you. Okay, I'll inform you to the in the
Okay.
group.
Okay, sure.
Okay, see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.